Hello and welcome to another Thursday night live open Q&A hosted by the NICEIC. I'm really pleased this evening to be joined by a couple of my colleagues from across the business. First of all, George Newham, one of our area engineers working down in the southeast. How are you, George? How's your day been so far?
Yeah, good, thank you. Little bit cooler today, still quite hot, but a little bit cooler. It's just been a little bit of a relief. But yeah, I did an assessment today, approved contractor. I'm sort of Essex based, North Essex. One of their jobs was sort of a little Cambridgeshire way, so we had a little drive up there, had a look at that. But yeah, good day. Yeah, typical sort of approved contractor, domestic, commercial. So this particular one did a lot of sort of FM maintenance as well. So yeah, good
excellent. Day. And also joined tonight by Jason Coppin. Jason's one of the technical services team looking after things like the telephone and email helplines, a part of it. So how are you, Jason? How's your day been so far?
Yeah, not too bad. Been on doing the technical helpline phone calls all day. Had a number of calls about swimming pools and hot tubs, so the weather's still dictating some people's work.
Yeah, we were saying it's always hot tub season as soon as there's a bit of heat out there. Lots of hot tub questions.
Yeah, I'm based in Kent, and the weather's still quite warm, so I'm thinking of getting a swimming pool and a hot tub. So just with a pay rise. Yeah,
brilliant. Go put it next to the tennis court and the AstroTurf pitch. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, before we start, we just need to get through a bit of housekeeping. So our team tonight will try and offer advice and guidance on the questions asked, but our guidance is limited to the extent of the information which provided in the question. We can't and do not assume any liability to anyone for any loss or damage caused by an error or omission in any advice or guidance given, and that's whether such an error or omission is the result of negligence or any other cause. If we do make reference tonight to any legislation, it's not to be considered as legal advice, and individuals must rely on their own skill and judgment when making use of any guidance offered. Please do put your questions into the chat. The whole idea of tonight is it's an open session, open to all, to try and help each other. So the whole idea is that we're going to try and improve our collective knowledge of BS7671 and everything electrical. So there's no such thing as a stupid question, only stupid answers. Please, if you are in the chat with each other, be respectful to each other. We'll try and help out as much as we can. Please do put your questions in the chat. While we're waiting for some questions to appear, we'll go through the question of the week that we posted out on social media earlier this week on Monday, and we'll also go through some of the questions that we've had from previous sessions that we weren't able to get around to viewing. So without any further ado, the question of the week this week was about BS7671, and the question said the section in BS7671 for protection against fault current only considers a fault between conductors belonging to the same circuit, and then we gave you the choices. Was that true? Was it false? Or was it not actually specified in 7671? When I had a little look out on the social media platforms earlier today, and about 21% of the people had gone for true, 64% of the people had gone for false, and 14% of the people said it wasn't actually specified in 7671. So I think, George, you're going to take this one. What is the answer? Is it true, false, or not specified?
So the answer is, which may surprise actually, is the correct answer is A, true. So well done to put that, because that was quite a maybe when you think it through and we explain it, it might make more sense. But at first thought, can see why people might put one of the others. But no, it is true. basically it tells you that in the first line, when you look at section 434, which covers obviously the requirements of fault protection against fault current, it actually says the first line, this section only considers the case of a fault between conductors belonging to the same circuit. So it actually says that. That's page 97 of the Brown book. I'm still looking in that one. Little bit of reason why the single fault principle, BS 7671, obviously international standards, but obviously design, if we think about design, when we design for that, we design between, say, the line and neutral. How would you, difficult, yeah, that's just what it's based on. You wouldn't necessarily know the fault current generated perhaps between a different circuit, and also that might, if one was faulted, then that should then kick in. I guess it's sort of a breakdown of two systems if you get a fault between two circuits. So it's kind of what if. Obviously, we have protection for what if, but then if you've got and this and that, there's too many things, it would, yeah, sort of spiral, perhaps. That'd be the sort of crux of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I think that's spot on. In that, yeah, I think a lot of people often think about, oh, well, do I have to consider, every eventuality? The simple answer is no, because they're highly unlikely that all of those things are going to happen at the same time. So that it's a single fault principle under which the design's done. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, please do put your questions in the chat, and while we're waiting for some questions to fill the chat box in, we'll go through some previous ones. So first one that we've got in was do all sockets installed in a dwelling have to be BS 1363? And the engineer said that he seemed to remember a regulation that stated that. So do all sockets in a dwelling have to be BS 1363? What's our thoughts? I think, Jason, you've got some help with that one.
Yeah, so easy answer is no. Got regulation 553.1.201, page 224 in the Orange book. It states there that every socket outlet for a household and similar use shall be shutter type, and for AC insulation shall preferably be a type compliant to BS 1363. There is a note there as well, informative, stating that USB charging ports, coaxial outlets, data outlets, HDMI and other AV outlets are not regarded as socket outlets for the purpose of this regulation. So yeah, the requirement is for the sockets to be shuttered and preferably to BS 1363.
Yeah, spot on. Thank you. Another one. We've got a common question that we're getting at the moment, or along a common theme. I'm still working on an electrical installation that was designed to Amendment 2 and Amendment 3, but Amendment 4 has now been published. To which version of the regulations should I inspect, test and certificate the installation? So when I'm completing my declaration, which version, which edition of 7671 should I state that I've complied with? George?
Yeah, so this is quite common, isn't it? Yeah, so at the moment, obviously, we're in a transition period, but obviously the question said it was designed to Amendment 2 plus Amendment 3. So whichever standard it was designed to, you can still certify that even if that was after the 15th of October, because it would have been still designed to that standard. So you would certify it to the standard that it was designed to. Obviously, you could look at the change, obviously discuss it with your client, look at the changes, check anything contractual, see if there's anything with Amendment 4 that does affect you, because, it may be that it doesn't affect that particular job anyway, and you can choose just, you know what, I'm just going to uplift it. But then you'd be designing it to Amendment 4. But yeah, the crux of the question is, yeah, you sign off to what it was designed to. It's just important to remember to then use that certificate as well. You wouldn't want to use the Amendment 4 certificate. It'd have to be the Amendment 3 certificate if that's what you're sort of going to. Another one with EICR is a little bit different. So after the 15th of October, obviously EICR is not really like the design aspect as there is in installation work. So obviously in EICRs, once the standards have been withdrawn, the Amendment 3 and 2, and after 15th of October, then the EICRs they will all be Amendment 4. But there could be some installation certificates still being done to stuff that's been designed prior.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, we're in this period at the moment, aren't we, where we've got 2 current standards because the previous editions aren't withdrawn until October 15th. But yeah, the key message you said, whichever edition of the standard you designed the job to and installed and inspected it, that's the one that you put on your declaration. And it can be an older standard, it can be a withdrawn standard. But we talked about this a little bit before on one of the wires. When it is an older or withdrawn standard, we do recommend that you have that conversation as early as possible with your customer, so that their expectation isn't always to have the work completed to the latest edition. But in those instances, as far as 7671 is concerned, it's perfectly acceptable to complete the work to a previous or even withdrawn standard. Okay, so we've got a question in, but we need some more. So if there are any others, please do put your questions in. Another one that we've got hanging over, again, a frequently asked question: can I have a departure when I'm completing a new installation? Jason.
Yes, you can. It's right at the front of the book. So you've got regulation 120.3, and there it states any intended departure from the parts required special consideration by the designer of the installation and shall be recorded on the appropriate electrical certification specified in Part 6. The resulting degree of safety of the installation shall not be less than that obtained by the compliance with the regulations. That's on page 25 in the regs. Obviously, you've also got on page 29 other regulations regarding selection of electrical equipment. So you've got regulations 133.1.1, .1.2 and .1.3 covering deviations from with the selection of equipment as well, and with the same requirement that the installation can be no less safe than by compliance with the regulations.
Yeah, and sometimes that caters for new technology and new product development, doesn't it? That they might not have a standard as yet, but they're safe, and you can get conformance and testing information from the product manufacturer, but yeah, there might not be a British standard or international standard for that product yet, but the consumer might want to take advantage of that new product, that new technology. So sometimes, yeah, we do have to depart, but as you say, 7671 permits it. So long as we declare it and so long as we ensure that the resulting degree of safety, and it's that phrase of no less safe than if I had complied. So if I had used a product that does have a British standard, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Another one that's hung over, and again quite a common one. So somebody's done a periodic inspection and test, and the result of that was some remedial work that required a consumer unit change. So the question that's been asked is, I've installed a new consumer unit as part of the remedial work resulting from an EICR. Do I have to produce an installation certificate for the consumer unit as well? Because all of the test results and observations, etc., were already included in the EICR. So can I use the EICR? What's our answer there, George?
No, you can't. You would have to do a certificate for that, because obviously that work, yes, you might have some of your test results, circuit details, etc., supply characteristics, but it's not. The EICR is only a report, so obviously that work, as per the reg, does require a certificate. Board change would obviously be an electrical installation certificate. Regulation 644.1 states about that, mentions that except where 644.4.201 applies, which is relating to minor works, things like that applies upon completion of the verification of a new installation or alteration, addition or alteration to an existing installation, including replacement of a distribution board or consumer unit, electrical installation certificate shall be issued. The main reasons why, I guess, the EICR seems like it's got all the information, but there is some crucial stuff that it wouldn't have. And even if you wrote that on there extra, it wouldn't have like the extent of what you've done. Even if you wrote that on there, it wouldn't have the actual where you sign the design, the construction, the inspection and testing, actually declaring that work, you're certifying that work has been done to BS 7671. Yeah. It also wouldn't have the amendment, for example, like we were just talking about before. What amendment has it been designed to, constructed, inspected and tested to? There is some crucial stuff. So yeah, it is important, whatever you do during the ICR or after, if it does require a certificate, whether that's an install or minor works, if you're, changing MCBs to RCBOs, things like that, that you would have to issue that additional certification to cover all parties as well, to cover yourself, to declare that you fitted that correctly, documented.
Yeah, and also it does that. There's a note for the recipient on the EICR which says that it mustn't be issued to certify new work. So it is, that two very different bits of documentation for two very different purposes. One that's talking about the safety of the installation, one that's talking about the verification that new work has been done in compliance with the requirements of BS 7671. So yeah, it often is the case that after the periodic inspection and test has been completed, certifications required for the remedial work if it involves new circuits, if it involves distribution board and consumer unit replacements, if it involves additions and alterations to existing circuits. So yeah, it's quite often the case that there'll be certification required for the new work.
There's good guidance on this in Best Practice Guide 1, changing the CU, and for certification you can see good guidance in Best Practice Guide 10.
Yeah, it's really good points.
One thing that comes up quite a bit as well is sometimes they might do minor remedial work on sort of 5 circuits, and they say we're having to issue 5 separate minor works. And sometimes you say, well, yeah, you could do that, but you could do an EIC still. You don't have to do a minor work. You could do an EIC and encompass them 5 circuits just on that one, or if you wanted to.
That's a good point, Joe.
Yeah, when I had a real job, we used to have a sort of a rule of thumb that once you went to 4 minor work certificates, the 5th you might as well do an EIC, because it's not much difference in terms of paperwork. And
with the scheduled inspections.
Yeah, the reduced schedule for the EIC. Okay, another fairly common question that's happening more and more now. If a house has a 3-phase supply, is it still considered domestic, or should it be classed as commercial? Thoughts there, Jason?
Yes, it's still considered domestic. I mean, many domestic properties are now being supplied with 3-phase supplies as a result of the increased electrical demand, i.e. EV charging, electric boilers, where there's no gas supply for new builds. Obviously, increased demand for cooking, heating, and obviously air source heat pumps. And, you know, there's many reasons now to have a 3-phase supply in a domestic property, you know, solar as well. Regardless of whether it's a single-phase or 3-phase supply, domestic work will still be covered under the NICEIC Domestic Installer Scheme, which is Certified Competent Person Scheme. And depending on the work being carried out, it may need to be notified to the local authority and building control under Part P of the building regulations. Obviously, working on 3-phase and single-phase supplies, you'd want to take into consideration everything in relation to your isolations, because there may need 3 isolations to make something safe.
Yeah, I think this question comes about because I think that the people still remember the domestic certificate, which used to have single-phase 100 amp on the top border. And yeah, I think, you know, we certainly took that down, and there's no template for that type of certificate in 7671 anymore. So we just have a single installation certificate, and that perhaps reflects that we, you know, there is a change now where I think our understanding is that one of the DNOs provide 3-phase to domestic properties on new builds now as a matter of course because of that additional demand, and in particular there's the government scheme to stop having gas supply to any new builds, so it is an electrical supply only in terms of energy. So yeah, it's there's no such thing now as a single phase 100 amp limit on domestic. It can be much bigger. Yeah, good stuff. Another old classic. Can you tell me which BS 7671 regulation gives the permitted distances between a socket outlet and a kitchen sink? What's our thoughts there, George?
Couldn't give you a specific one because yeah, it doesn't actually specify a minimum distance of a sink to a socket. No, there's some information, you know, guidance and some of the guidance publications, but the actual BS 7671 doesn't specify. It would just be the general requirements. We've got 528.3 talks about proximity to non-electrical services. So there should be a range so that any foreseeable work on one service wouldn't affect another. Might come to mind. General external influences. Obviously, you know, if a socket was getting splashed and think, you know, right above a sink and people plugging in, then, you know, just the general external influences of that, if there's evidence of that. But basically the general requirements as a regs. RAG as well we've got on it. Question 1.54 on the RAG question and answer section, which is a really good section actually, if anyone's not aware of that. There's lots of questions on there about initial verification and another section on periodic as well. The question 1.54 actually talks about an accessory or a consumer unit. How close can it be installed to a sink or wash basin? Because the basin, often we get asked about that as well. And literally says, it does not specify, obviously anyone can go and have a look at this anyway, question 1.54, regulation 512.2.1 relating to external influences, requires that equipment shall be of a design appropriate to the situation which is to be used in the mode of installation, take account of conditions to be counted. I won't go through the whole lot. But yeah, pretty much, you know, obviously the use of it. So if you've got something being plugged in that's going to fall, you don't want that. If there's water damage, if you did any ICR and there's clear water damage, you don't want that. But just because it's within, there's no set distance. Yeah, some people have distances from some of the guidance books, but that is guidance. Yeah, it's not specified in DSM-671. I think 300, good practice. Yeah, it's good practice. It does say that in the RAG 300. Yeah.
There is guidance mentioned in IET, Electrician's Guide to the Building Regulations. And there's a diagram of a kitchen with figures in there, but I'd like you sort of stated it is guidance.
Yeah, more best practice, I guess. Obviously, you've got commercial as well. That RAG goes on to say. Same principle applies. Could be increased risk of water jets, so you might want to look at IPX4 respectively. I mean, this is not just talking about sockets, this is now moving on to other things as well. Consumer units, general accessories. 522.3.1 is another regulation. Wiring system to be selected and erected so that damage is not caused by condensation or ingress of water whilst being installed, used or maintained. Yeah, so hope that helps, because you can't, it's lovely, 300 mil every time, but some instances you might be doing the ICR and obviously we need to know specifically, is it a regulation?
Yeah.
Because you can't really code it just to, there's probably got to find regulations to put to it.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, if you were doing a periodic inspection and test, then isolate it and open the accessory to see if there is any evidence of ingress. That's a better indication than just compliance with a measurement. But yeah, you know, as a rule of thumb, 300 mil a foot is accepted as general, but there might be specific reasons, you know, like you say, if you've got powerful jet washers or whatever and there's more splashing, and we're now talking about an industrial kitchen, then the distance might need to increase. So yeah, 300 mil is good guidance, but yeah, if you were doing a periodic inspection, and then isolate and open the accessory. Okay, we've got some questions coming in now, which is really good to see. We'll just do one more that we had hung over. What code would we give cables not adequately supported to prevent premature collapse in a defined escape route? Jason?
Generally, the recommendation would be towards a C2 for potentially dangerous. There's guidance in Best Practice Guide 4 on page 20, where it states wiring systems not adequately supported to prevent premature collapse as in the event of a fire in locations where this would hinder evacuation or firefighting activities, such as communal areas forming part of an escape route. That's on page 20 of Best Practice Guide 4, which comes under, you've got the regulation, which is on page 149, regulation 521.10.202, which is the one that states wiring systems shall be supported such that they will not be liable to premature collapse in the event of a fire. It's pretty self-explanatory. And also is, I'm sure everyone keeps up to date. I mean, the amount of advancements in technology now where you can retrofit metal clips to support stuff on cable trays and trunking and that, and just coming out now to make life so much easier to retrofit and supply with suitable support required for the cables.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jason mentioned Best Practice Guide 4 for those people that aren't aware. So Best Practice Guide 4 freely available to download from the Electrical Safety First website. We also mentioned earlier some others there. Best Practice Guide 4's about recommended classification codes for periodic inspection and test. We mentioned Best Practice Guide 1, which is about changing consumer units. Best Practice Guide 10, which is about periodic inspection and safety checks in the rented sector. So really good for the practicing electrician. A great information source on electrical safety first, and all freely downloadable PDFs, which you can then store and use.
They're readily available through the Pocket Guide app now as well, aren't they, Sam?
Yeah, you can get access to them through the Pocket Guide app, and that's fantastic timing, because it brings us into one of the questions for tonight. Will the NICEIC app be updated to Amendment 4? We believe it is already. So yeah, to the engineer that's asked that question, if they have spotted an error, please do make us aware. But we did quite a lot of work prior to Amendment 4 being published to ensure that our guidance in the Pocket Guide app was up to date. So we believe it is. So yeah, if that question is because you've spotted an error, please do let us know, and of course we'll do our best to get that corrected. Right, we've got some questions that have come in that we'll try and answer as many as we possibly can. Some great questions, so thank you very much for those, and please do put them in. So the first one that we'll look at is in an installation with all circuits RCD protected and main bonding present, if an earth continuity reading of 2000 ohms is measured at the bathroom pipework, is supplementary bonding required? So it's an installation with all circuits RCD protected and main bonding present. If an earth continuity reading of 2000 ohms is measured at the bathroom pipework, is supplementary bonding required? My first thought was, if we've got RCD protection, then supplementary bonding isn't required in a bathroom. But I'm just trying to ascertain what the reading is. So you've got an earth continuity reading of 2000 ohms at the bathroom pipework. Is that between different accessible extraneous conductive parts? In which case, it still wouldn't warrant supplementary bonding while you've got RCD protection. What are our thoughts there, gents?
Yeah. Do you want to go, Jason?
Yeah. So in Best Practice Guide 4, you've got guidance there as well. It says absence of additional protection by RCD circuits without supplementary bonding. If you have got supplementary RCDs, it's not a code.
Yeah, I've switched to the orange Amendment 4 book now. 258 701.415.2 supplementary potential bonding. And I believe that's the one that might mention where it's got RCDs. Yeah, it mentions low down, and then all final circuits of the location and additional protection as one of the items.
Yeah.
To comply to all of them. The only thing like that sounds with that reading, so it could be, wouldn't need supplementary bonding, but isn't an extraneous conductive part because there's no main protective bonding. Is that the way you're getting at? You want to just see where's that reading coming from? Is it main bonded at the incoming water? If that's metal, you want to make sure that's main bonded there, obviously, because you could be getting, if you're doing a long lead to that, is that showing that you need main bonding? I'm not sure where that is, but try and look at where that's coming from, or is it actually an extraneous conductive part?
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't really get just thinking if it's bonded, you'd expect that to be 0.
Yeah, you'd expect them to be at the same potential, unless they're isolated bits of metalwork that are not connected. So yeah, George is right. In that the statement I made wasn't 100% correct. In order for you to be able to omit supplementary bonding, you need to comply with all of those D, E, and F at the bottom of page 258. So you need to make sure that you're achieving your disconnection times of 0.4. Generally for bathroom circuits. You've got RCD protection, and all your extraneous conductive parts at the location are connected to bonding. So if all of those 3 are met, then you can omit supplementary bonding. So yeah, just it would be interesting. So actually the engineer's comment, the high continuity reading is due to a section of plastic pipe having been installed. Yeah, okay, so if we've got a bit of plastic pipe, then although it's conductive pipe work in the bathroom, it's isolated pipe work, not extraneous. So wouldn't need bonding. So yeah. Thanks.
So you've got regulation 701.415.2 to take into consideration, where if all circuits passing through have got RCD protection, you can take that into consideration.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at. The bottom 3 idents, D, E, and F. If they're met, then we can omit supplementary bonding.
Yeah, funny where that reading coming from. Yeah, but doesn't sound like it would be extraneous, and it's got that plastic insulating section. Unlikely to be. And
no, unless it goes back into the ground.
From is it coming from a bit of moisture or something? Don't know. Yeah, in the bathroom. But it's within this sort of Faraday's cage. If you like, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's isolated.
Yeah. So I think so long as we're meeting our disconnection times for the circuits, so long as the extraneous conductive parts are bonded, and you did say the main bonds were present, then your RCD protection, those 3 things would mean we're compliant to be able to omit supplementary bonding. So hopefully that helps. There's some other great questions that I want to try and get to. So this one is a great question that we might have to take away and think about and come back, but I'll give my initial thoughts. So in a HMO property where a cooker circuit has a 45 amp switch with an incorporated socket outlet, do you require an AFDD if supplied by a 32 amp protective device? So HMO obviously means it falls into one of the building types that are applicable to the AFDD regulation 421.7, and it is a socket outlet. And if we read the regulation, it says arc fault detection devices conforming to the relevant British standard shall be provided for single phase AC final circuits supplying socket outlets with a rated current not exceeding 32 amp. So the first thing I'd say is, if I read the question, it's in an installation, which means an existing one. So don't forget, the first thing I'd say is regulations with enhanced requirements aren't retrospective. So you wouldn't need to retrospectively fit an AFDD, that's for certain. The general guidance on a periodic inspection is, providing you've got adequate fault protection, so you're meeting your disconnection times required, then absence of AFDDs would only be recommended as a C3. But if it's new work, that's quite an interesting question then. If it's new work, although it's not a circuit supplying, it's a cooker circuit, but it is also supplying a cooker switch with a socket outlet. So yeah, on a new install, and the engineer has just confirmed it's a new circuit. Yeah, I think our advice there would be that the fact that it's a cooker control circuit, it's a cooker circuit rather than a socket outlet. But I'd like to hold back confirmed NIC view on that, because it is an interesting. Certainly, what I can say in black and white is if it was a cooker circuit without a socket outlet, we would say no, it doesn't need an AFDD. If it was a socket outlet circuit without a cooker, we would say yes, it does need an AFDD because it's a HMO. But where it's both, that's an interesting question, and it's a bit of a take on it. So yeah, I'm going to hold that one over, unless would you gents have any other thoughts on it?
I'm leaning towards the fact that there was a socket.
Yeah, it is a socket. It definitely, it's a socket, and it'd be rated at less than 32 amps because it's going to be a 1363 socket. So yeah,
it does say AC final circuits supplying socket outlets with a rate of 1932 amps, which is what the circuit is doing.
Yeah, I think it is. It's it would be a requirement, but I think when that reg was being considered, it was thinking about ring and radial socket outlet circuits. It wasn't thinking, and I know, for example, some of the things were clarified. So for example, when our orange book's been published, it clarified it, didn't it, that vehicle charging equipment that has a socket outlet of type isn't included in this, but that's really because that's outside, and then hasn't got the same hazard implications as sockets inside in terms of arc faults. So yeah, I think the first thought is that it's a new circuit. It's a circuit supplying a socket outlet rated 32 amps. It's in a HMO, so it would. It just sounds a little onerous to me for a single socket, and the concern would be, have we checked with the cooker manufacturer that's not going to have a detrimental effect on the AFDD and cause nuisance tripping, because I know they've done a lot of work with appliances that are plugged into socket outlets, but they might not have considered cookers themselves. So yeah, I think we will confirm it across social media and other ways, but initial thoughts are yes, it's a HMO, tick. So it fits in one of the four. It's a circuit supplying a socket outlet rated at less than 32 amp, second tick. So yes, it would.
I guess the thing is with that socket as well, I guess the intention, it may have been for more socket circuits, but I don't know. Obviously, we'll definitely have to come back with an official answer, won't we? But I suppose with that socket, if it's to protect socket circuits within mind, things that could be plugged in, potentially dangerous things that are going to arc. I suppose you could plug anything into that, because another good question would be, if say it was just an isolator, a lot of the time behind the oven you might have an outlet plate for the hob and then a socket for the oven, which is literally plugged in. So you could say the same to that as well, or you might have like an appliance circuit that's been designed just for the appliances, and theoretically they've got sockets, but for them you can't actually plug anything else into them. But with that one you could. But yes, that'd be another, not to cause more, but that could be another question as well, isn't it? But
yeah, no, it's a really interesting one, and it's quite, AFDD's, the requirement's been around now for a good number of years. That's the first time I've been asked that question, so that really has got me thinking. It's great. So yeah, thank you very much to the engineer for that. That's a good one, and like I say, we will certainly come back with a finalised statement, but initial thoughts are yes, because it ticks the boxes in terms of where 7671 says AFDDs are required. So yeah, great question. Just bear with me while I capture some an image of the questions.
I suppose socket outlets is worded outlets. I guess that includes, it doesn't say a socket, there's not like brackets on the S. Does it mean more than one? I don't think it does though.
No, yeah, I don't think the intent was to ever limit it to more than one. It was just to sort of it's one or more, I think.
There's 4.1.3.3 is the same, socket outlets, any socket, yeah, any socket.
Okay, let's... Right, another good one. Is a 13 amp double socket in a cupboard in a bathroom allowed? Thoughts there, gents?
If the door's lockable, then it should be outside of the zones if it's a completely sealed enclosure.
Yeah, we can. 701 talks about how we can limit the zones, doesn't it? Horizontal or enclosed ceilings or walls, with or without windows, doors, floors and fixed partitions may be taken into account where these effectively limit the extent of locations containing a bath or a shower, as well as their zones.
I think that was obviously it's always the designer's judgment on it as well. You know, they'd have to be happy with it as well. I think it might be in the connections a while ago. I've got just a reference, spring 2023, page 41. Presuming that's still our official.
Yes, yeah.
An airing cupboard in a bathroom or shower. In this space within an airing cupboard in a bathroom or shower that would otherwise be in a particular zone be considered within the zone. It says no. 701.32.1 states that ceiling wall, which is the one you mentioned, and then it also says in conjunction with the question below, can I install a 36.2 socket at a distance of less than 2.5 metres from the edge of zone 1 in a location in the bathroom with a closable door? So it says the cupboard has to be suitably constructed and the door can be closed. Subsequently, the same situation is sort of like if the hallway door closes and you've got a socket just the outside of it, the only thing the bathroom door, but, you know, a cabinet, you may open that, but you'd have to use your judgment to be happy with it. But theoretically, yes, could be, I'd say.
Yeah, so you can limit the zones by partitions, and then with enclosures you can take it out of the zone if it is, because you've got to do two things, haven't it? You've got to get it out of the zones and you've also got to get it that distance. So like you say, often the socket outlet in the hallway is less than 2.5 meters, but because of the door of the bathroom, then it's outside of that location. So similar principle applies to the cabinet. If it's such construction that it can take it out of the location, so it's no longer in. But yeah, it's not so much the distance, is it? Does it take it out of the location?
Yeah.
Getting a lot of sort of open plan sort of bedroom, bathrooms and things like that as well. So it's more sort of, you know, the standard bathroom. You might not come across too many sockets, but you do seem to get a lot more sort of conversions, bedroom conversions with sort of house just wall or whatever that's open. Like that.
We see it quite a lot again in sort of the HMO world, where they've converted the bathroom by putting a shower cubicle in the corner of the room, and then you quite easily run into issues with sockets not being correctly distanced from the edge of that. we're running out of time, but there was just one other that. So do the NIC have any plans to introduce AI assistance to their online certification, i.e. populating fields using photographs, video? Okay, we're aware that there is a product out there that lets you take a picture of a consumer unit or distribution board, and it effectively populates the circuit detail page. We've not got that functionality yet. It is being looked at, along with some other ideas. So we are continually developing. We've had a major change recently where we've now got the single app is both available for use on and offline. So if you've not got internet access, you can carry on producing forms, certificates and reports, and then it will sync when it does reconnect with the internet. So we are still progressing. We don't have that functionality that the engineers referred to there yet, but it may be a development in the future. Okay, we're going to have to call a halt for it there because we're running out of time. We just want to tell you another couple of things. Obviously, this is an open session for everybody. If you are interested in NICEIC schemes, then please do visit the website. We've got a number of electrotechnical, MCS and other competent person schemes that we run. So we'll be more than happy to talk to you about how you apply and how you can be certified with NICEIC. Also, our training team, if you've got electrical, renewable, emergency lighting, fire, and other technology training requirements, then again, please do get in touch with us, because it's something that we hold very dear, and we are there's a lot of training requirements at the moment for people to achieve. Please do again pop onto the NICEIC website to see what training facilities we have and the courses that are available. Other than that, we always run these open sessions generally on the first Thursday of each month. So the next one will be Thursday the 3rd of September. Some great questions that had us thinking. So it's really interesting. Please do, if we didn't get round to answering your question tonight, then we'll try and use those to open up the session next time. We've also got coming up, if you are an NIC certified contractor, we've got NIC Live North in Sheffield happening in September. So please do go onto the website to find out about that. That's a whole day of CPD accredited presentations by ourselves and other industry leaders. And then towards the end of the year, ELEX starts again. ELEX Coventry in October, and then ELEX Sandown in November. We'll be at both of those. So please, if you're in those areas and are thinking about coming to ELEX, please do come along and see us. Other than that, I would just like to say thank you very much. Any thoughts, Jason, George?
I attended Sandown last year and I thought it was a great event. Learned a lot going around seeing the new products available. Very useful time spent, really.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah. Thanks everyone. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, George. Thanks, Jason. Really good night, and thanks to all the engineers in the audience. Some great questions. Hopefully, we've got round most of them, and those that we didn't, we'll come back to them. So, really do appreciate you contributing. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
Cheers.